below the benchmark. Then for program 2, also as well, the COE was at 72%, and then goods and services at 59%, and then the transfers to the two entities was sitting at 77% at the end of the quarter, and then capital assets for program 2 were sitting at 17%. And then for program 3, their COE was at 80%, which was over the benchmark by 5%. Their goods and services were sitting at 66%, whilst the capital assets were sitting at 112%. This is where we had implemented the environment's chairperson to avoid unauthorized expenditure at year-end in program 3. And then for the fourth quarter, the benchmark was 100%, as we are supposed to have spent 100% of our allocation. However, we spent 99.3% at the end of the fourth quarter. Program 1, they underspent by 3%. So if I don't know what is this. Okay. Program 1, they spent 100% of their budget. Program 2 spent 98% of the budget, while program 3 spent 99.5% of their budget. Mainly the underspending was around COE across the two programs, and then we also had underspending in goods and services. At program level, you'd see that 4 sub-programs in the administration, they spend 100% of their budget, while the corporate services sub-program spent 99.9% of the budget. And a program through 3 sub-programs, they spend 100% of their budget, whilst the other 3, they spent between 94 and 99% of their budget. And then in program 3, we have 2 sub-programs that spend 100% of their budget, while 3 other sub-programs, they spend less than 100% of their budget. Then at economic classification level, COE for program 1 and goods and services, they spend 100% of their allocation, including on the households. The underspending was around the SABC licenses, as well as the capital assets. I think it was around 78,000 on the capital assets. And then program 2, the underspending was on COE and goods and services, whilst they spent 100% on the household and the transfers to the entities. And then for program 2, we also wrote off assets to the value of 30,000 at the end of the year. Under program 3, they spent 99.5% of their COE allocation, whilst the spending on other economic classification was at 100%. We also wrote off assets to the value of 6,000 due to losses that took place during the year under review. Thank you, Chairperson.
In conclusion, Chairperson, during the period under review, we've implemented several critical communication programs to keep citizens informed of government efforts and facilitate their active participation. We have marked improvement between the 78% in quarter 3 to 85% in quarter 4. And the launch of Citizens Connect and Goza TV demonstrates our drive towards innovative communication channels to unlock the potential of a multiplier force of citizens being empowered through communication excellence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG, and the colleagues who have just presented. Can I suggest that we take the MDDA presentation so we have one consolidated discussion after? Thank you. Over to you, DM. Sorry, may I also acknowledge and welcome Deputy Minister Gungubele. I see he has joined us on the platform. DM Morolong, the MDDA.
As I said, the role of the MDDA is to support small and commercial media. And I've also said that we have the chair of the board, who I'm confident could lead the presentation, and the CEO on behalf of MDDA, Professor Mathebula.
Through you, Chair, I think Professor Mathebula is still trying to connect. With your permission, Chairperson and DM, I would like to share then the presentation of the MDDA.
Please proceed, CEO.
Thank you. Colleagues, may I please be allowed to participate with screen sharing?
I've given you codes, right? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. May I please just get confirmation that the screen is visible?
We can see it, Madam.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee. I do see that Professor Matebula has joined, and perhaps he would just start and hand over to myself to take the presentation through. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Matebula, you have the floor. And welcome.
Good morning, Chair, and my apologies. I just got to be informed 2 minutes ago, literally, that the meeting has actually started at 9 instead of 10 o'clock. So I will not really waste time. I think I'll just ask the CEO just to proceed, and then we can just engage after the presentation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee and members, to the Deputy Ministers and colleagues on the platform. I will be taking us through the MDDA's Q3 and Q4 performance information and the financial report. I'll be assisted by the Finance Manager, Simpiwe Mthembu, on the platform as well. I will not go through the strategic overview of the entity in the interest of time, as well as the legislation and the mandate of the organization, but we had shared the presentation, and I'm hoping that colleagues and members will make time to go through it. I'll start first by looking at the highlights for Q3 and Q4. The agency was able to run successful Staff Connect in efforts to improve performance and drive a high-performance team, and received a recognition from the IPM Excellence Award in November. We also extended our internship program to end in March 2024. I think also most notably, we handed over studios in Mafikeng, Mabatu, CCFM and Nganyamazana in Mpumalanga, led by the Minister and Deputy Minister and our Chairperson of the Board. We also celebrated 20 years since our existence. So those were the highlights from Q3 and Q4. Looking at Q3, the agency had a vacancy rate of 22.7%. I must indicate that if you look at Q4, you will see that there is a drop in the vacancy rate. The agency was able to fill critical vacancies, particularly in finance and the appointment of the CEO, and we continue to make efforts to improve this vacancy rate. We have the board has approved our organizational structure, which will enable us to be able to fill the vacancies against what's been budgeted for. When we do report in the next term, there will be significant improvement in this area, as we've already started with those recruitment processes. Overall performance in Q3, we achieved 75% of our targets. I will just indicate the areas where we were not able to achieve some of the targets that we have. It was in innovation and research, which is Program 5, number of research projects that were to look at key trends and developments impacting the community media sector. This was corrected and the research has been underway. And this target was met in the end. I think also just to indicate that when we moved to Q4 of our performance period, we were able to achieve all of our targets which was a great improvement. We had 11 targets that were set for Q4, and those we were able to achieve. We did carry over some of the targets that were not achieved in Q3 to improve the performance overall. In terms of media engagements and stakeholder, we have focused on building meaningful engagements with other entities and independent organizations to assist or ensure that we achieve the mandate of the MDDA. We've also made efforts to drive conversations and thought leadership on media development and diversity in the country. We did this through interviews on SABC, SAFM, and a number of other publications. In the period Q4 and Q3, the focus was also highlighting the 20 years of the existence of the agency. We've also partnered or signed an MOU with NEMISA to assist in ensuring that we carry out skills development, particularly in the community media sector, looking at digital skills, understanding the changing landscape and the environment in which we are now operating under. I will now get into the performance information, looking specifically on the programs that we run to achieve the mandate of the agency. We have 5 programs that we run. Program 1 being governance and administration, Program 2 being grant and seed funding, Program 3 partnership, public awareness and advocacy, Program 4 being capacity building and sector development, Program 5 being innovation, research and development. Under Program 1, one of our targets was achieving an unqualified audit with no significant findings. We had developed an audit improvement action plan, which we reported to the Audit and Risk Committee on, and that target we were able to we continued rather developing and reporting on that. We also focus on the percentage of fraud detection and prevention, and these were quarterly. We continued again reporting on this. I'll not dwell much onto this area. I'll move to the next targets. Under Program 2, grant seed funding, what we were not able to achieve was the number of monitoring reports that were generated. Our targets were higher than the number of projects that the board had approved, which was 22 in that period. We have corrected this in the current annual performance plan to align the targets of the projects that we are monitoring against the grant or the grant that we have approved for both broadcast as well as print publication. So this was one of the targets that we were not able to achieve in terms of monitoring and evaluation. In Program 3, partnership, public awareness and advocacy, we were not able to achieve the number of proposals for funding and support presented to potential and existing stakeholders. While we had gone and met stakeholders and submitted proposals, unfortunately, the response had come outside of the reporting period, but this is an area that the agency has emphasized on as we seek to build additional income to be able to support the community media sector. And I'm happy to say that there's been significant improvement, and our follow-up is much more structured and persistent to ensure that we are able to meet this target also in the upcoming periods. As indicated in Q4, we were able to achieve all of our targets. And in Program 5, we have the issue which I indicated, which was the number of research projects. We did approve the research proposal and memo, and the research did carry on, and as such, this target was in the end achieved. And the agency continues to use research to assist in ensuring that we are responding to the challenge of the sector using insights from the information that we do receive. In Program 4, I will not dwell much. As indicated, all the targets were achieved, and there was alignment as well in terms of the monitoring and evaluation activities that we carried out in the quarter. Honorable members, in terms of governance for Q3, the agency had 9 board members, 6 were appointed following a recommendation from Parliament, And I will not dwell through the information that we have here, but also still under this program, just to indicate that we did the handovers of state-of-the-art studios in Mafikeng and Mabatu, led by the Deputy Minister, the Chairperson of the board as well, and the Minister in the Presidency. And these are the number of board members that we had at Q3. I think when we look at Q4, you will see that there was an addition of board members. The board welcomed 3 new members, Mr. T. Mpagati, Ms. Jayashree Patha, and Mr. Ondile Kedama, who will be serving a 3-year term, and they commenced office from February this year. We did have 1 resignation from the board by Ms. Delatonia, who served as a board member from June 2022. And also just the reflection of that information of the board members that we currently have as an agency. These are the Audit and Risk Committee. Their term did come to an end, and a new Audit and Risk Committee was appointed. We will be reporting on that in the next coming term. These are just the information or remuneration information relating to the board members. I'll now hand over to Simpiwe, who will take us through the finance information and the budget for the agency. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chair. Welcome. Greetings to the members present in the meeting. I will be taking you through the financial information for Q3 and also Q4. Starting with the revenue, slide 44. Our slide depicts the original budget, then we have the revised budget, and then we do a year-to-date, and then we compare our actual figures against our year-to-date to track our performance. We link this information with the performance that has been presented by our CEO to see how far we are in achieving our goals. As at Q3, looking at broadcast funders, we had a variance of about 2%, meaning we had collected almost all the revenues that we had budgeted for. Under grant income, there was a significantly huge variance of 17%. The reason for the variance is the broadcast income will include our portion of revenue that we recognize after we dispersed the EDF project. So that disbursement had not yet been done at Q3, hence the variance. And also looking at the interest income, even though we had received the bulk of the money for broadcast funders, but that money was received relatively late in Q3, hence it didn't generate as much interest as we had originally budgeted for, but we kept a close eye on that interest in the following quarter. Can we move to next slide, please? So the narrative of what I've presented just now, under broadcast funders, the variance is due to the variance. All right, so sorry, thank you. I was on a different slide. With broadcast funders, the variance is in line with our expectation as we have collected the majority of the funds. Under grant income, the variance is due to the EDF, as I indicated, and then that interest is sitting currently. We're enjoying about 8.2% at the time. So that variance there was just because of the length of time that the money spent in their account, having then realized less interest than budgeted for. On the next slide, this is now slide 4, quarter number 4. This is now the end of the year. Still, the variance on broadcast funders was still that 2%. So some of the money was not recovered. The broadcast funders paid directly to ICASA, but that was a small percentage of what we anticipated. Under grant income, the variance has gone down. We've received all the money from the fiscus, and we've allocated funds for the EDF. The variance of 8% is in line with the expectation. Some of the projects from the EDF were then carried over to the new financial year. Hence, there was a small difference. Interest income, We're happy to report that those funds having sat for about 4 months in our account, we're able to generate more interest than we had budgeted for, hence that 16% over the actual budget. Thank you. Can we go to slide number 48? Okay, this information, Chair, is now our expenditure for Q3. Our slide depicts the original budget. We also have a revised budget and our year-to-date, and then we compare that with our actual expenditure to track our performance. The biggest one being grant expenditure. There was a 33%, board costs 25%, admin costs we were sitting with a 7%, which is in range, and also with the employee costs we're sitting at 2%. Just to talk to the narrative of that, the underspending on grant expenditure is mainly due to the timing of the actual projects. So in terms of our in terms of our SOP, we have special milestones that each project must be on for them to be able to get the second tranche or the third tranche. So depending on the timing of where they are, that will then affect the actual disbursement of those funds. Also, the projects are dispersed using the calendar year from January to December, but the year end then it cuts off at the end of March, so it will then contribute to that variance of 33%. If you look at the actual expenditure, then the budget that was budgeted for at that time. The board costs, this was due to a revised budget, just looking at the number of meetings that we anticipated to have within MDDA. However, at the end of the financial year, most of those meetings were then held virtually, and then that could then realize a saving in terms of the board cost element. Under admin cost, the variance is at 7%, which seems to be in line with the expectation. But it's up from the original budget due to this was done to cover the items that were not previously budgeted for. However, some of the items were coming through from the previous financial year, and then we just moved over to the 23-24 financial year. Hence, if you look at the original budget and admin costs, there is a variance. Under employee cost, there is a variance of 2%, which is in line. This is also due to the revised budget that was done to then cover the vacant position that the MDD had at the time. Slide 49. Chair, slide 49 is for Q4, to the end of the financial year. Looking at grant expenditure, we are still sitting with a 32% variance. The board cost 27%. Admin expenditure, it's within range at less than 2%, and then we didn't have a variance on employee cost. The narrative almost similar. That underspending on grant expenditure is mainly due to the timing of the disbursement, depending on the phase that the project will be on. Moving to board costs, it was just a reaction to the number of meetings that we anticipated to have within the MDDA. The admin costs, that negative variance at the end of the financial year, even though we had done an adjustment, but it was also in line. So the 2% is against actual and the adjusted budget. So that was in line after covering all those costs that were not previously originally budgeted for. And then the employee costs wouldn't have a variance because we were aware at the time of all the vacant positions that we had and the plan to actually fill those. Hence, we didn't have a variance there. Thank you, Chair. I will hand over to CEO for the final slides.
Thank you very much, Simpiwe. I think I might have lost connection for a minute there. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members, the deputy ministers, the and leaders of entities and colleagues on the platform, the MDDA remains committed to the fulfillment of its mandate. There was improvement when we look at Q3 and Q4 performance compared to the previous financial year. And also at the end of the financial year, the agency realized an improvement in terms of overall performance from the 79 of the 2022-23 financial year to 86%. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the presenters from the MDDA, the CEO colleagues who took us through the presentation with the CEO. Honorable members, that is the presentation. May I take hands for discussions, questions of clarity to both the GCIS and the MDDA? I'll take a round of 3 hands, get responses from the entities, and then I'll come back for a second round if there are any other hands. So the first hand I see is Honorable Sithole, followed by Honorable Matthys. Do we have any other hand, honorable members? No other hands? All right. Honorable Sithole, you're recognized. Please, can I ask during discussions if members may switch on their cameras, and we will make the same request to the department and the MDDA when responding. So in this round, I'm going to take Honorable Sithole, Honorable Matthys, and then Honorable Vilakazi. When we come back, we will then take Honorable Mkhaga, and I'm sure we will have other hands at that point. Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to honorable members, to DMs, and to the staff and the presenters. First of all, Honorable Chairperson, I want to congratulate and thank you the presentation that has been forwarded to us by the department. Only a few questions, Honorable Chairperson, that I need to get clarification on them. The first one, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of GBVF, because it seems that the GCIS is not vocally, especially when it comes to their publication, to their publications, because the Vuk'uzenzele is supposed to have a portion of what is happening in the country, because the Vuk'uzenzele is the paper that has been actually distributed to different municipalities and different sectors of our communities. It needs to have that awareness in their marketing system. If that one can be rectified, Honorable Chairperson. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, I'm worried about their target, because they target 40, but they only achieved 31. It means 9 was not achieved. So now I'm trying to check from them what was the reasons and what system do they have now to ensure that whatever targets they made, they must achieve that target, or at least if we say they didn't achieve only 2 or 3, but 9 of their targets are not been achieved. So now it is worried, Honorable Chairperson. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of 3.4 million Vuk'uzenzele copies which were produced, but the distribution of those 3.4 is a challenge, and is not actually been clarified. How far with the distribution of that 3.4 millions? Because I'm talking about our constituencies. As I'm talking about with you as chairperson, I don't think in your constituency they do have the Vuk'uzenzele pamphlet in the offices, because in our office there is no Vuk'uzenzele. I even asked them to send it to Gauteng, where my constituency is. But it seems that there's a lot of things, there's a lot of challenge that we are facing. If that thing can be rectified, Honorable Chairperson. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of campaigns, because they approve about 55 campaigns, but they only achieved 22, which was implemented. Why Chairperson, they don't actually fulfill what they're supposed to? This is the warning factors, Honorable Chairperson, DMs, because we have to follow these things, because at the end of the day, whatever is being done by GCIS is actually the service delivery, because we want to see their service delivery, the information, because the information is power to our communities. So those things, Honorable Chairperson, need to be looked at, and then trying to avoid this unachievement of the implementation. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mates.
Happy Friday, everybody. Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, and the GCIS and the MDDA. Quickly, I want to go through. I think I'm partially covered. Well, to a large extent, I'm covered mainly about the programs that the GCI had. This presentation is extremely disturbing. Number one, we have the presentation. It's just done by the way. There's nothing to say that, okay, we didn't meet these targets. Outside of how you're going to fix it, what were the consequences of not meeting these targets? I mean, when we talk about the program of the GBEF, we have such a dire problem in South Africa, and just to come and say that we were not able to meet target, yeah, it's very painful to hear that. Outside of that, I'd like to know, and I'd like them to explain to me, how do you decide, firstly, how do you monitor if your program is successful? I can tell you now for free, I am in the space of government. I'm a politician. I did not know that GSI until I've come to this committee that you even have a program. So who are you reaching, and how are you monitoring the effectiveness of your program? So it's okay to say we have this program. How do you know you've met target? How do you know that you have made inroads? How do you benchmark your targets based on the extent of the issue that you are trying to mitigate here? Let's talk about your program. You said that you participated in the voter registration program, for example, right? How do you know that your program was successful? Because it was mainly political parties that I didn't even know that the GSI was even involved in doing voter registration, because as a political party, we don't even rely on government, not even the IEC, to get people to register to vote. So you have, I'm sure if I ask you, what was your target? You're not going to know how many people you wanted to reach to register to vote. Literally between 2019 and 2024, we only had an increase of just over 1 million new registered voters. Do you know how many people are eligible to vote in South Africa? We have 42, just over 42 million who are eligible to vote. And the number of that who's actually registered to vote is 27 million. So when you set your target, you have to start from there. What is it that we want to achieve? And what is it, or what resources do we need to do that? So GSI just comes here and gives us vibes. And I'm sure if we go back, even in the previous administration, it's going to be the same story. We just get vibes. We don't know what you're doing, and the average South African does not know. And the fact that myself, as a citizen who's even in the space, doesn't know about these programs means that you are not being effective, and it means that we are just wasting money. You're not even meeting your target as you speak about it. These imbizos that you are doing for the presidency, how much do they cost? Is there any, because we know that when they go to the provinces, you have COCTA that is also contributing to these imbizos. So what is the cost implications from the GCIS in this regard? And how do you measure that you are being effective? Is it by turnout? Because I can tell you, if I want to go and do an imbizo for my political party, you just invite your branch members or the members around there and they come. But that's not your job. Your job is to meet ordinary South Africans. And how do you know that you are doing that? Like, what is your measurement? How do you even set your targets? You also had mentioned here that that some of the, no, it wasn't you, it was MDDA. So I'll come and deal with them. The media buying, and this is something we're very passionate about, also as the economic freedom fighters. To what extent are you supporting the SABC? We have SABC that is in a dire situation at the moment. They need a bailout. How much of the budget are you spending on SABC in terms of advertising in comparison to any of the private partners? And whether is it even necessary to be advertising in a private media when you have SABC, who has an extensive footprint across the country? Then let's move on, Chair, to, the WhatsApp channel that you are talking about. Is this for ordinary South Africans, or is it for you to communicate just between the government departments on what's going on? The MDDA, it's the same issue with them too, Chair. You know, we're starting to sound like broken records here in this committee, because we hear the same thing over and over since we've been presented with these reports. We haven't met target, we're going to do better, but no one comes and says, this is what we are going to do because we didn't meet target. This is who is responsible for not doing it, and this is what the consequences are going to be. Otherwise, we are just going to continue on the same bandwagon over and over again. At this level, and it was the MDDA that said they didn't meet the target, and I can't remember exactly on which program, but you said you didn't meet target because the target that was set, your resources were not available. How? Not at this level. Can you even come and report here in Parliament to say that you set a target, knowing very well that you're not going to be able to have the resources to do it? Setting targets means that you sit and you say, okay, we want to achieve this. Is it achievable? Do we have the resources? What resources do we need? And in the course of not being able to do that, I mean, obviously there's going to be times where you said, okay, the target is going to be this is what the resources need, and there might be a little bit more, and there's room for that as well, but it can't be to the extent of how you are reporting to do that. The same thing we want here is consequence management. And I was having this conversation with the Deputy Minister outside on Tuesday, is that we must be able to get reports. Even when you come and you present your plan for the year, who is going to be responsible for this? And if this program is not met, who is going to be accountable for it, and what is going to be the consequences? And this is the only way that we are going to move our government entities, and not just government, but even our government departments forward. Otherwise, we just come here, we ask the same questions over and over, we give you a smack on your hand, you go back on your merry way, you prepare, you come back to present the next quarter or the next annual performance performance report and you tell us the same thing. You actually just literally copy and paste. And it's not just these two entities that have presented. It's across the board. It's everywhere. The state-of-the-art studios that you are talking about, this is another problem we have in government, is that we have and we create and these buildings lie empty. So I would have liked that when you said you handed over, the building was handed over to whoever, or who is going to be the ones that are going to be responsible. Are they being used? Are they being used maximum as possible? And whether you are responsible for the oversight and the use of those studios, or how it's going to work. I do understand also that this is the presentation, so you can't get into too much detail, but I'd like to know that. I mean, the issue of art in our communities is a huge thing. We have a lot of youth who are in the streets that are out on drugs. And then we have these facilities that they don't know about and that is not easily accessible. So these are one of the ways to be able to get them off the streets and have something meaningful for them to do in their lives. If you can also explain to us, why did one of the board members resign? You don't necessarily need to answer this now. You can give it to us in a written reply if you don't have all of it, but maybe you can mention one or two. Is that who are the major print companies that you use? Who are the major broadcasting companies that you use for your program? Your grant expenditure for underspending it's also something that hits really deep in our gut, knowing the levels of poverty in our country, the levels of unemployment, and how small businesses are coping. So outside of, I mean, I get there's trenches and payments, but we need to anticipate that these things are going to happen, and we need to make sure that we intervene or we put systems in place to avoid underspending. And most of all, to make sure that those programs that we've already initiated or that we have started are still functioning, because they end up falling by the wayside. And then we've wasted money on a project that was not able to reach its goal because of incompetencies on our side. The issue of vacant positions also, you know, you just go over it like it's just become the DNA of government that we have government positions. So how many positions did we have, or did you have that were available? How long did it take to fill those positions, and why did it take so long? The unemployment rate is like skyrocketed here in South Africa. There are people who are sitting home, and here we have salaries and we have allocations for people to be able to work, and we are just not filling positions. And you can't say that it was some scarce skill or whatever it is. So we need to get rid of all the red tape. We need to make sure that our positions are filled, and they are filled timely, especially to help deal with the issue of unemployment and the high levels of poverty that we have here in the country. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Matthys. Can we move to Honorable Vilakazi? I have noted you, Honorable Suprathi and Honorable Shongwe. After Honorable Vilakazi, will ask the department and MDDA to respond, and then I will come back to you for the next round. Honorable Vilakazi.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair. Good morning from a rather wintry Durban today. But nevertheless, let's hope about GCIS and MDDA will warm the day for us. Thank you to both entities for your presentations. My questions are based on the documentation that we received for the meeting of the 10th. I noticed that your presentations were slightly different. There were actually even some improvements that I saw on this on the presentations that we got today. So some of them might not have come up in today's presentation, but just bear with me. The reason is because my questions were prepared for the 10th of September. There's something that when it comes to the GCIS, there was something in that presentation, I didn't hear it today, but there was something about a digital transformation strategy document, or that you're doing a digital transformation strategy. I'd love a copy of that. Would you be able to share that document with the portfolio committee? And these are questions that have been asked by my colleagues in various guises, but why has performance dropped from 2020, 2021 to now. And the other thing is just with the targets again, or the fact that there's that one compound indicator that you use. You said it aggregates reach with number of posts. And I think firstly, it's problematic, as you pointed out in the presentation, to have an aggregated indicator, because then it becomes difficult to measure it. And I would request that for future, can you please disaggregate those so that each thing can be measured on its own. But I think also just the fact that the number of posts, you reached, I think, the number of posts, but you did not reach the spread, the reach that you had intended. You did not reach that target. Shows that posts by themselves mean nothing really. Honorable Matthijs asked now about the quality of the indicators and the impact of your goals and indicators. And so you can release those 20 posts, but what impact do they have? And actually posts, that they will spread wider the more useful they are to audiences, who will then spread them to others. But I think the points that I would like to reinforce that my colleagues have referred to is about the quality of the targets. In fact, at some point, I wish as a committee we could get together with you, not just yourselves actually, but other entities, and just delve into the targets, because the targets are really worrying. They are mainly about just doing, not so much about achieving. And so they become, they're not really, at face value, they don't look like great indicators of impact. And then just what else is that, give me a moment, I'm trying to follow my note. I've mixed two bunches of notes. But for example, in BSO, there was something about advertiser funding that you said you do, which I found impressive, that you get income from advertising. Can you tell us how much of it, how much income did you get? What percentage was it of your total income? And what is advertising income used for? And there was something about your white paper in the presentation. The presenter didn't go into it. I just saw something flash about, it was a slide that wasn't delved into. I'd have been interested to hear what the white paper is and what that was about. And then in regard to the finances, you're pretty high on your budget, and yet you are low. You are saying that your staff complement isn't full. So if I'm just wondering, if perhaps the finance person can give me clarity on this. Do you budget for a full staff complement, or do you budget for the staff complement that you have at the time that you budget? Because if you budget for a full staff complement and you almost utilize that budget, but you still have vacancies, then perhaps there could be overspending somewhere that we are not seeing. But I'll just love clarity on that on that aspect. And then I'm bothered by the 100% exact expenditure to budget. Budgets are estimates, and something like maybe capital expenditure, where you got a quote and you buy something for the exact amount, something like headcount, compensation of employees, where you stay rigid with a certain number of employees and you have those, you carry those that exact number of employees to the end of the year. Those would have an exact budget to actual. In this case, I see that the actuals are exact to budget. Can you explain to us how you manage to get that exact comparison? It seems a bit and it's unusual to me, and I'm just interested to know how you do it. So the MDDA, again, all targets or the majority of targets are achieved, but what's the quality and how is the impact of these targets achieved or measured. And then I didn't hear it in this presentation, but there was something about an audit outcome in the initial report that that we received. And the report only stated that there was an audit action plan that had been submitted, and but nothing about what it was addressing. Can you please just tell us a bit about that? There was also, okay, hang on. Oh, I'm just also wondering, in your finance presentations, in your on your finance table, you have variances, percentage variances for the line items, but not variances for the totals for either expenditure or income. And it would be interesting from a point of view of someone like myself to say, okay, in the overall picture, what is the percentage variance? And also in line again with what's been asked, how do you, what happens with variance? What do you do? How do you monitor variance, and how do you address budgetary variances? I think Honorable Mateus mentioned consequence management, and I know that it tends to be equated with firing of people or whatever. It could just be matters of performance management. It could be upskilling. How do you manage? What happens when there's variation in budget? And on that note, you were saying on some of your items that they are within the acceptable limits. So what is the permissible deviation on budget in your case? And I just wondered also to myself, this is the Department of, well, you're reporting to the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, and we are talking about digitization. I was just wondering, does the MDDA have a digital transformation strategy? What does it entail? And is it in written form that one can have access to it? Other than that, the other thing is you spoke about submissions to prospective funders. That's also exciting to see, because in an environment or in a dispensation of decreasing disbursements from Treasury, any external income generated is welcome. Who would those be? And I can't remember whether you referred to it, but can you just again remind us what your success rate has been in that? Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vilakazi. Members, I'm please going to appeal to you that perhaps you, let's try not to follow Honorable Vilakazi's example, and we keep our questions as succinct as possible. I'm going to now call on Deputy Minister Murulong, if you could lead the department in responding to that first round of questions, please. Then we'll come back for the second round. Thank you.
No, Chairperson. I may have missed some of the issues that would have been raised. I have connectivity issues, but I think in general, I have picked up on some of them. And I'm going to request that before, so after I speak, that GCIS come in to also respond to some of these issues. But Chairperson, I think what we need to do, apart from the workshop that was held between yourselves and these entities, I think we need to delve a session to delve more into the APPs of these entities, so that there's a much broader understanding of the work of these entities. Because I think there may have been issues that I feel were missed out in the engagement that ensued between yourself and these entities in that workshop. I think we are happy that there was a catch-up mechanism on some of the indicators that were missed in the first quarter. We don't necessarily encourage a situation where indicators are missed, especially within a financial year, but we are content that there would have been an improvement. There are obvious reasons why targets are missed. I got to get what Honorable Mateus had said on the state of the art studios, and I think she was talking about evidence that we are really supporting commercial and small community media. And I would have said, Chairperson, we would have said that these state-of-the-art studios are studios that would have been donated by MDDA to community radio stations. We would have opened a number of them consistent with what the report says. We would have been able to launch them. These are community radio stations that are functional and that continue to impart knowledge and information to various communities. I think I agree that there must be a broader discussion on the quality of our targets and indicators. And that is why I'm suggesting that maybe we need a broader discussion, especially with respect to the current APP. Other questions may have been technical that I may have missed out. I'm going to suggest that we allow the GCIS and the MDDA to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Acting DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members and DM, I'm going to talk to a number of questions, but my colleagues, any questions that I would have left out, they will assist me. I will start with the questions of Honorable Stole. I think we take note of the suggestions and the recommendations that we need to amplify the communication on the GBV and F. But just to outline that we utilize a number of platforms in communication on the subject. Particularly, it is informed by a number of people that we want to talk to. For an example, you'd have your youth more on social media, and then we will utilize the digital platforms as well. And Vukuzenzele is one of the platforms. We also do the community radio, whereby we have phone-in programs and connect to about 100 community radio stations at a time in terms of the campaign itself. However, we do understand that there are limitations, and most of them are more related to the budget. A chairperson having said that in the financial year under review, we had 20 million rands to communicate about 4 campaigns of government. And therefore, we also had the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability amplifying and also latching into other technical aspects of the same GBV and F campaign. And in terms of the Vukuzenzele publications themselves, because of budgetary constraints, we only print about 850,000 copies in a month. However, we supplement it with online copies as well, so that those people who are able to access it online are then using the online copies. We do take note of the distribution challenges, but I think the really root cause is the fact of the number of copies that we get to print in a month, that we cannot reach the whole South Africa. This is based just on the budget that we have as a department. And then in terms of the media campaigns that were approved, which were 55, and we only managed to implement 22. Chairperson, the report of the 22 is what we were able to implement during the quarter under review. What normally happens is that some of them, they fall outside the particular quarter. However, it does mean that we have to work closely with our clients, because we can't flight until the client themselves have approved the scripts, should I just say the content. And therefore, sometimes the approvals, they come just closer to the end of the quarter, and then the flighting then gets to be rolled over to the other quarters. But we do make it a point that we flight the campaigns that have been approved. And the Honorable Mattis, I think she raised the issues around the gender-based violence and femicide program. And what we normally do, because I think her question was more about how do we know our reach and etc. We utilize a system that is approved formally, which is called Thelma, which tells us in each platform the reach. For an example, if you go to SABC community radio stations, we know the listenership of each and every radio station. I'm just making an example on the SABC radio stations, including the TV. But we also have what we called the approved government segmentation model that characterize the population of South Africa in terms of the segments. That includes in terms of literacy levels, so that informs us which language to use. It informs us in terms of the socio-economic issues of the targeted audience as well, so that we are able to understand on whether our target for the particular campaign or the topic that we want to communicate about will be able to understand in which language and where they are located. So both the TELMA and the government segmentation model are our basis in terms of who is our target and which platforms then we should utilize. We then also, in terms of the support and the use of SABC, because of the vast nature of the number of platforms that are under the SABC as a media house, we definitely use a number of them, and particularly the rich, and especially in terms of your regional radio stations, because if you take your top 5, they are able to give you a listenership of about 25 million people. However, because we are government, we are still required to follow the proper supply chain management processes, and therefore we cannot just utilize only SABC. We still need to follow the supply chain management processes, but being guided by TELMA in terms of the number of people we want to reach, being guided by the government segmentation model in terms of the content we want to communicate and where those people are. In terms of the work that we do for the presidential Izimbizo, our work is more on communication than the logistics. And I fully agree with Honorable that COGTA then becomes the key player in terms of the work of Izimbizo, because the logistics and other things are their responsibility, whilst ours is focusing more on communication and ensuring a maximum participation of media, so that the physical event is able to reach everyone across the country, and sometimes it even reach outside the country, because some of our platforms, they have international viewers and listeners. And then coming to Honorable Vilakazi, what we do is when we have the budget allocation from National Treasury, we then are aware in terms of how many number of posts we can afford to fill during the medium-term expenditure framework period. But I will allow the CFO to also add a little bit in terms of the content around there. But we budget for the existing staff members first, and then with whatsoever that remains available, then we then are able then to prioritize which posts become critical to fill. And it has not always been enough understanding the fiscal constraints. And in terms of sharing the digital transformation strategy, we'll definitely do that, honorable members. We will share it through the secretariat. And in terms of the advertiser-funded program, the advertiser-funded program is when you pay the media house themselves to project the content that you are curating and you want to be projected, rather than when the media houses themselves are the ones that are reporting. So on this advertiser funding program that we were reporting about, it was when we went through supply chain management processes, and then SABC had to be able to assist us to communicate to South Africans about a number of government programs that we were implementing, but also more including the voices of ordinary people and civil society, so that as we plan ahead, we are able to take into account those voices. And we did pay SABC about 7 million for that advertiser-funded program. And in terms of the white paper policy, We had drafted the green paper at that time in the period under review, and having been reported that it's one of the indicators that we are taking forward in this financial year as well, so that we are able to finalize it. In terms of the indicators and segregation of them, and definitely this financial year's APP, we have separated the indicator in terms of the reach and the number of posts that have to be posted. But I will also, Chairperson, with your permission, allow my colleagues just to add wherever I have missed or wherever I have provided limited content. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Are there any additions from GCIS before we hand over to MDDA?
Yes, Chair, I would like to add from what the acting DG and the Minister has highlighted. With regards to the spending on SABC for the year 2023-24, we spent about 52 million on SABC TV and radio. This was done through the media buying for other departments, as well as through the GCIS advertiser funded program. Then with regards to how we estimate the budget, we normally run a process of having costed plans for the department at a program level. And then we also do the costing of the compensation of employees based on the structure, approved structure, the posts that are identified as critical, and also what we can be able to afford in terms of the COE. So that's how we do the costing of the COE. And then to ensure that we don't overspend our budget for COE, we do monthly COE costing so that we can factor in all the other changes that normally happen during the year, which results to the spending of the COE being fully spent at year end for all the programs. However, with program 2, during the year, we lost about 2 chief directors, and then also there were some employees that also left during the year. Hence, they had some savings of about 1.4 to 1.5 million on COE. And then under program 3 as well, we also lost 1 chief director under program 3 during the year. And then we also had some saving under program 3 on COE. But on program 1, the program fully spent their allocated budget on COE. And then, Chairperson, I would also like to highlight that for the capital assets, we normally have the IT procurement that is centralized at IT. So that's how we make sure that we spend our budget. So we normally do quarterly IT procurement during the year. So the only challenges was that some of the items that were ordered could not be delivered at year end. Hence, we had some savings under the capital budget. On goods and services, I think the only savings that we had were under program 2, as some of the funding that was for the advertiser funder, because some of the episodes they flighted late in the month of March, and therefore the payments could not be made at year end. So they were made around April. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, CFO. Professor Tebula, CEO.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be very brief with the answers. Starting with the Honorable Vilakazi. I think let's start with the issue of the funders. We have a broadcast funders and a print. Unfortunately, because the print are not necessarily legislated or forced by legislation to fund us, we have struggled in that regard for some time now. So in the main, the bulk of our funding does come from broadcast funders and a bit from government. And I think to contextualize this is that members who may not have been in this committee in the 6th administration may have to familiarize themselves with the fact that MDDA in its establishment was a partnership between private sector and government in that regard. On the issue of a audit outcome, we had a qualified opinion in the previous year. Unfortunately, we have maintained that qualified audit outcome despite our best wishes and effort. We're hoping that we potentially will be able to do better in the next year. Honorable Mateus, why did a board member resign? So the MDDA Act prevent any official of a political organization to be a board member. The said board member took a position in a political party, and she then had to resign her position. To that extent, we will wait for the parliamentary processes to replace that specific member. On the issue of the state-of-the-art studio equipment, I would invite members at an appropriate time to visit the studios to ascertain for themselves and be able to see that what we're giving our communities is no less a best of breed in respect of state-of-the-art. So what you could find at 702, you will find at a community radio station. What you could find at the SABC, you could find in the community radio station. In certain instances, we actually have better studio equipment for our community radios that our communities are utilizing. And those community studios then get to be used for a variety of activities, which are not only limited to broadcast, but you can be able to record stories and artists, up-and-coming artists. As you will know, it's very difficult sometimes to break into the mainstream media for people that are coming from deep rural communities, and these studios are able to give our people an opportunity to be able to record their activities. On the issues of consequence management, I think that the board and the executive come to this committee to account on and take responsibility for things that has been achieved or not achieved. And then we then have to deal with at an internal level with the employees without necessarily having to do it via a committee of parliament, given the various legislative framework that we operate under. Chair, I think I would leave it at that. There was no question for us from Honorable Stoller. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. CEO, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and Honorable, the Chairperson of the board has answered most of the question. Just on the digital strategy, we are developing the digital strategy, and that would be made available once ready. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind the officials that we do require your cameras on when you are responding to us, please. Thank you, Professor Matebula. Honorable Subrathi, and then you will be followed by Honorable Shongwe.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and greetings to the DMs and the members of the entities and GCIS and MDDA that are on in this meeting. Chair, I have been covered largely by a lot of my colleagues, but let me start by also expressing myself in that Honorable Vilakazi mentioned, used a statement, he saw something in a flash and it was gone. Chair, we must understand that we are at the beginning of the 7th administration, and many of us in this committee are newly constituted members. And my opening comment is that I found that the presentations were rather rushed. I have got a notice from 9 o'clock till about 12 o'clock and till 1 o'clock, and I have set aside time to leave slightly early for more. So I don't understand why the meeting was rushed. More so because this is our first engagement with GCIS and MDDA, other than the induction, which I was not at, but more so from an engagement point of view. I found the reports to be rather rushed. I also found that the reports that were presented were not the ones necessary that were emailed, and therefore it was difficult for us to follow through. And I think the lesson we learned from that, when we have these conversations, it cannot be a tick box exercise, Chair. It must be a meaningful exercise at a measured pace where we are able to absorb, internalize, reflect, and thereafter articulate and provide guidance. Otherwise, it becomes a tick box exercise. And I must be candid in saying that the 7th administration and this portfolio committee is not here to achieve a tick box exercise. We will engage all entities meaningfully, and we will have awkward conversation because the people of South Africa have sent us here to have that awkward conversation. Honorable Chair, I want to move on to some of my comments. I want to start with MDDA very quickly. MDDA, I looked at the employment equity status, and I noticed that the employment equity status shows on the terms of colors, in terms of the diverse population groups, the target was 2, the MET is 0. The Indians was 2, MET 1. Whites 2, MET 0. So there's a huge level of employment equity not met. And my concern is this: in a diverse country like South Africa, why have we not made any effort to fill in those employment equity in terms of the colored groups, in terms of Indians and whites? I also am concerned about the vacancy rate in MDDA of 20%. Against the backdrop of what the President has mentioned about us reducing unemployment, our 3 apex priorities of creating an inclusive economy, reducing unemployment, I cannot understand why we have a 20% vacancy rate. Against the backdrop, I noticed in the income statement, they have a substantial amount of interest income, which means that there must be investments. It tells me that there's no shortage of funds. So why have we not filled in those vacancies? I am also concerned, Honorable Chair, over the order of it receiving a qualified report, despite there being only 47 employees in MDDA, and I would imagine it to be a fairly, by size, to be a small organization or manager. What are the reasons and causes of it having such, not being able to achieve a clean audit given the size of the entity? Honorable Chair, I am concerned when you talk to GCIS, again, against the backdrop of creating an inclusive economy, I want us to get clarity. In one of the targets, it speaks of spending 20% on certain groups. I just want to, but it says that it has achieved of the spend, I think, on SMEs or designated groups. There was a challenge over there. It did not achieve. I need to get clarity on that, because that talks to empowering our emerging enterprises. I mean, I think there was 10.35% on EMEs and 37.97% on QSEs. So I just need clarity on that, please. I'm also concerned about the intergovernmental communication. Honorable Chair, I have found in the committees that I sit in, is that there seems to be a lacuna in the communication between government departments. I mean, in addition to, and this is not the topic of discussion here, in addition to being not enough intergovernmental support in terms of business to business, but there seems to be a gap in terms of connection and communication between intergovernmental, between government departments. And what concerns me in their performance, I think it was the GCIS mentioned that 2 out of the 6, I'm just trying to find that, yes, 2 out of the 6 intergovernmental forums, it's supposed to be 6, but only 2. And that talks to this lack of communication. So I need to understand, are the governments departments communicated? Does GCIS have a responsibility to communicate with other departments? Do they play a role in that intergovernmental communication? There is a lacuna, there is a gap. It's evidenced in the fact that only 2 out of the 6 intended forums were achieved. And I want us to get clarity on that. And then also I want to talk about a principle, an issue of principle. I mean, we've seen 86% achieve, 87, 85% achieve. And again, these are lovely numbers. But are these achievements translating to real outcomes on the ground? I mean, I have a fairly active social media page on TikTok where I have over 1 million viewers. I've never picked up a single government notice through the algorithms. I mean, I'm an ANC member, so it picks up all the ANCs, the algorithm picks it up. But why is it I'm not seeing any governmental posts coming through on social media? I'm an ordinary citizen of South Africa first before I'm a member of parliament. We spoke of a WhatsApp channel. I don't know if I missed it, but why haven't I been given an invitation to join this WhatsApp channel? So once we say we've done all these things, I'm saying that it's not translating. I cannot see as an ordinary citizen in that capacity, I cannot see it manifesting or translating into outcomes on the ground. So Honorable Chair, I'm going to park over here in the interest of time. And I don't want to take, I'd rather take that back away because I heard that being used in a presentation. In the interest of time, I will skip this. Nothing should be skipped. And yes, the presentation has been shared and it can be taken as read. But when we engage in it is a conversation where we connect with each other and we must have clarity when we leave this meeting. Honorable Chair, I'll park it over here. I thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Subrathi. Honorable Shongwe.
Sanibonani, ngiyabingelela sihlalo. Ngibonga ithuba. Ngibingelela onke ama-honorables nama-department we-GCIS ne-MDDA. I mean, I'm of the view, sihlalo, ukuthi the 7th administration engiyiphathayo, I wish ukuthi singaba yiphatha something that works, that doesn't tick a box ukuthi we were there, we delivered, and then we left. And to find what we have nothing to point. For me, the GCIS and MDDA, they are not different from the story of the Bigfoot. And we may put them in the same box as the SABC because they get funding, they get money, they get budget. They've got nothing to point other than to point a big foot, lapapans, a marking that says the Bigfoot was here, and that's it. Nothing serious to point and nothing that develops our community. So I wish for this term or this time around with the 7th administration that whatever they came here to present, let it be something tangible and something that works and develop it, grow Yabantu, Abahlupekile, and all those people that need it. My question on that, I want to ask you, GCIS, how is GCIS working with the regional community broadcasters to promote the visibility of the government within the provinces? That is GCIS. And with the MDDA, if one of their mandates is to promote the regional broadcasters, how are they working with the ICASA to improve the application processes of our licenses? Because one has to get a license from ICASA to be able to apply through Ilokunja MDDA. But our community stations or radio stations or anything are complaining with it. They don't get licenses. There's a stream there and they're not even getting a OCs from the MDDA because it requires a license. But if people don't get licenses, that means MDDA is rendered useless. So how are they working with ICASA to improve that? That's all my questions.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mates, is that a follow-up? If so, I will give you 2 minutes to follow up because you were in the first round. But please proceed, Madam.
You just want to monitor me, don't you, Chair?
Yes, I do.
I know it's Friday and all that, but we may as well go hard or go home. I don't know why my video is not coming on. Okay, Chair, you have the, okay, there I am. Just quickly, on the publication, GCIS, I keep getting it wrong. How do you know that these publications are being delivered and are they reaching? I mean, I'm assuming the whole point of having a publication is to get into the rural areas where the majority of, of our population doesn't or can't access digital information for one reason or the other. Data costs are high and reception, etc. So how do you monitor and how do you know that the publications are not lying in some warehouse or they're not being dumped or whatever it is? Because 800, I think you said you publish or you print 800,000 publications a month. So we need to know that they're getting to where they're getting, because coming to report, we've printed 800,000, wonderful. And but there's costs involved. And if it's not reaching its intended constituency, then it is a problem. And also and maybe you can also just speak to the cost per month for printing and putting that publication together. Well, mainly the printing, because obviously having a digital publication, it's not necessarily an outdated thing, and it is moving more into the digital era rather. But print is really just finding its way out. A way out in public relations, but I do, or I can be convinced, or we can be convinced rather, that the reach out in rural areas, etc., is where it would be most effective. And then one more thing, I don't think we are getting the answer that we need in terms of this thing about costs of advertising. So let me explain it like this. For example, you want to advertise, giving you an example, Ramaphosa's President Ramaphosa's Imbizo, right? You go to Ugosi FM, right? It's a 2-minute or a 1-minute ad. How much will you pay at Ugosi FM versus you go into Kakasi FM for the same ad during the same to the same period? What we're trying to find out here, and we have this huge discrimination within the advertising space. And SABC is at the receiving end of this, opposed to private media companies. So the point here is, obviously we're not saying you can't, or we're trying to put restrictions, or rather I was implying that we must restrict and not advertise privately, but we're trying to determine that we must lead as government in making sure that we break those barriers where we cannot be having private media houses. As government, we pay them more opposed to our institutions that are state, that even have a maximum reach, and they're actually going to reach people that generally the majority of media houses are not going to reach. So thank you, Chair. I think I did 2 minutes, yeah?
You tried. Honorable Mades. Thank you so very much. Thank you, honorable members, for those questions. I just have a few questions myself before I hand over to the institutions to respond. The first one is around the district development models. Now, you have explained in a bit of detail that you are responsible for the communications, which I understand to be the media engagements, and you said the information must get to people. I want to know, once the money has been paid, the chairs have been removed, the banners have gone down, what is GCIS's responsibility of communications, of the outcome of those imbizos, not just to media, but to the people that you had bussed in? Because I don't think that they come to a DDM imbizo because they've got nothing else to do, but because they truly believe that when they raise their issues with government, they will be able to get a response that would change their lives. So what systems do you have working together with COGTA to ensure that there is meaningful feedback, which is part of the communication process to those people that would have come to that imbizo? But also your vision reads empowering, I just want to check it now, empowering communications through communication, empowering South Africans through communication excellence. Now, the members have lamented the issue of impact, and I want to put it to you this way. Your report, GCIS third quarter and fourth quarter, speaks about you developing an active citizenry. What is an active citizenry? What is an empowered citizenry as according to your vision? And how are you measuring that all this money that is being spent by the GCIS is delivering on it? Because it's one thing to tell us that through Telma, you have so many people are being reached, but Honorable Matei says you should have then said, we're going to do voter registration. This is the number of people that we're targeting, and this is what we are getting. So if you could just give me a sense there. And you must excuse us also, I think DM and acting DG, this is our first engagement with the GCIS on performance issues. So we were not part, I think, of the approval of this APP and obviously the strategy that precedes it. So we do have some questions around what you are now reporting on. The GCIS did not report on Program 1 in terms of your performance indicators. Hence, we have no sense of the vacancy rate at the GCIS. Hence, we don't have a sense of what employment equity looks like. We don't know in terms of your audit outcomes, what is it that the Auditor General had recommended be done, and how are you delivering on that? The committee has taken a decision to request the department and all its entities to give us quarterly reports on implementation against your audit plans. So if you can comment on that as well. Okay, I won't speak to issues of effectiveness. Reiterate Honorable Vilagazi's request for the digital transformation strategy. And then on the issue of media buying, the issue that Honorable Matei has been raising, is there anything that says that you cannot ring fence a certain percentage of the GCIS budget for the SABC? We find it extremely hypocritical, I think would be the word, that government departments or government in general expects to be functional, expects to be profitable, whereas their money is being spent elsewhere and not in the entities that are owned by government. And I think that our push as this committee is to ensure that there is greater support and cooperation between the various government departments to ensure that they are able to cross whatever it is, not cross subsidization, but you are buying this. You need to buy media anyway. Why are you not buying it from the SABC? Similarly, I would also ask you about your couriering service. Why are you not using the post office? And if you are using the post office, please speak to us about how much of your money goes to the South African Post Office. Deputy Minister, we cannot be told that a draft white paper has not been processed for 2 quarters because you could not get a meeting to present to the minister. Now, unless you are saying to us that this draft white paper is inconsequential, it is a non-issue, it cannot be that the work of government is then going to stop because you can't get hold of the minister. Perhaps you may want to give us an indication of what is in that white paper, what is the value of it, and what it is that you are doing then to ensure that it is passed if you believe that it is important enough. I'd also like maybe you reflect on the state of the multi-purpose centers. I mean, this was a key government initiative to ensure that government communications is exactly where the people are. They have government services there. A lot of money was spent on the multi-purpose centers and it's gone quiet, it's dead. Your presentation makes no reference at all to the multi-purpose centers. I've got many questions. I think anybody who knows me knows that I'm passionate about this department, but I won't go into all of them. I think some will send through as written questions, but I do have one question, which I want to direct to the Deputy Minister specifically, and maybe the acting DG would also want to reflect. A decision was taken in the 6th administration to move the GCIS back into the presidency. I assume that the thinking was that you would be more effective at the center of government located in the Apex office, What has been the impact of you moving into the presidency? What has changed? Have you taken advantage of that in any way? And is it demonstrable to us that you can speak to it? But also, what would government lose if the GCIS did not exist? Because there seems to be, you know, all of this disparate reporting, and then there's complaints about a system and whatnot. So practically, Deputy Minister, what value do you believe that the GCIS is adding to government communication system and society, most importantly, at this present stage? Thank you very much, honorable members, for your contribution. And now let me hand over to the GCIS. Oh, sorry, I just forgot to add one thing. It's not a question, but it is a comment, perhaps to the MDDA, to say, I think it was Honorable Mates who spoke of issues of governance at the MDDA. And I think we said that we would come back. We do want a report on the state of governance beyond what we have been given. There's been correspondence that has also been sent to the portfolio committee around challenges in the board, as well as issues of terms of board members and so forth. So if you are able to respond to it, please do. Otherwise, it can be something that we can look at in the next term. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister.
No. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I am traveling. I'm going to suggest that I switch off the camera so that it does not affect my connectivity. With your permission, sir. Thanks. Well, Chairperson, I think your questions are quite pertinent. The first one being whether there has been an impact in moving GCIS to the presidency. And I agree that that assessment has got to be made. The GCIS is responsible for coordination of and effective coordination of government communication, and it's supposed to inter alia ensure that all government communication is streamlined, and that all government departments have workable plans to communicate with the citizenry. And I believe that in the first instance, that is the first reason why it has been moved to the presidency, because of the transversal nature of the work of GCIS, because GCIS has got a similar role that departments like the Treasury plays, because they are overarching and all-encompassing. And I think that that assessment is important. I'm not in a position to say whether that assessment has been done and whether there has been significant change. Obviously, GCIS is experiencing challenges. We agree that there are challenges that amount to capacity. There is challenges with respect to legislative frameworks. And obviously, there are also challenges that, the range from coordination of all these government departments. I, for instance, agree that you can't have a situation where GCIS is unable to meet a target to engage all government communicators. That's a target which should have been met and exceeded. And I believe that these are some of the weaknesses that we may have to delve into. We agree that there is a misalignment with respect to terms of individual board members, because when board members resign and their positions are filled, they are not into the term of the board of MDDA. This is a matter that the minister is looking at, so that in future we can have a proper alignment of individual terms of board members. The tuition service centers would have been an important centers for government to impart knowledge and information to the citizenry. And in the last administration, rather the 6th administration, we would have crisscrossed the country to open new ones, in collaboration with the private sector. But there are also weaknesses in this regard. In the first instance, we have been in discussions with the Department of Public Service to look at ways in which they can adopt these centers, given the limitations of the capacity of GCIS to run this. And some of these centers, you would know, Chairperson, are white elephants, and they are consequently unable to make any impact for which they were initially established. So these are some of the issues that we would have been seized with. I am unfortunately do not know why the discussion on the white paper have not ensued with the minister. I would obviously engage the minister, but I doubt that the minister would not make herself available for such an engagement to ensue, unless there were pressing commitments that would have militated against her availability, Chairperson. I think the other issue that I want to speak to is the employment equity issue. I agree that in a country as diverse as South Africa, and given our historic past, we can ill afford to have employment equity not finding expression in our institutions. And I think it's a matter of grave concern. And I think there must be a way in which it can be addressed. I also agree that we must bring back the audit action plans to the committee to look at whether there has been a compliance with the directives of the AG. I don't know if I'm leaving any other issues that are not technical, but I hope that if there are issues that I may not have adequately responded to, the officials will also assist in doing so. Acting AG, through your permission.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Acting DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I kindly request to switch off my video because the network is not too good, if you agree, Chairperson.
Please don't, Acting DG, not only for us, but all committee meetings are public meetings, and in being streamed, we are not assisting if we don't have our videos on.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would first would like to assure the members that we take note of the required presentation speed, that the presentations are a means of fully engaging, and therefore we will really make sure that going forward our presentations are not rushed. We present in such a way that it all allows the members to fully engage in the process. Chairperson, allow me just to take the questions randomly. I will start with the question around the presentation of the Program 1 of GCIS APP. Chairperson, I think it is the issue that we were presenting the targets that we did not meet, given the fact that the others we have met. However, allow me, Chairperson, just to talk to the 3 targets that we have in our APP, which is the audit findings, and our target was to have an unqualified audit with no material findings. And we achieved a clean audit, Chairperson, and therefore even the issue of the audit action plan, we put it in place for our own selves, just to make sure that we don't drop the ball and the controls are kept adequate and effective. However, from the AG side, they didn't really put forward the action plans that we have to put in place. Safe to say that we had to improve just our record management processes. I will allow Chairperson the AG as well to come back probably and report in terms of how we normally as they do, how we have improved our processes as GCIS, or we have not improved based on the previous audit. But in the financially under review, we didn't really have much areas of improvement. And then the other target that we had set in the APP was the leadership training of the middle managers and the senior managers. And that's the one that we didn't meet of the middle managers based to budgetary constraints. And The other one was the one that I think it was also discussed by the members that was talking about the budget spent on designated groups, whereby in Q3 we reported that we had system glitches. However, based on the targets that we had set, we did achieve the targets at the end of the financial year. In Q3, we had a report, but because our system of verification was to use the system that we have internally in the department, not the documents that we normally process for achievement. And therefore, we couldn't use the documents. We had to rely on the system as a reliable source that will advise us in terms of how we have managed to perform. And then, Chairperson, in terms of the vacancies and the transformation targets, we don't have such in our APP because we felt, okay, sorry, I've forgotten to say the fourth target in terms of the program 1 was to ensure that we have a digitization strategy for the department so that we are able to improve efficiencies and save some costs when necessary. So we had those 4 targets in program 1. However, Chairperson, I'm going to be talking to the interest of the members in terms of understanding our transformation targets. So basically in the department at a senior management level, we have 60% females and we have 40% males. And in terms of the overall organization, we have 59% females and 41% males. And in terms of the disability, we have 3% of our workforce falling under the category of disability. And in terms of our vacancies, at the end of the financial year, for the period under review, we had 22% vacancies. And it was because some of them we couldn't fill them, but the majority was based on the funding constraints because we had budget cuts. And in terms of the question around the targets whereby we had targeted to train, to have 6 training sessions, and we ended up having 2, Chairperson. Chairperson, we fully are saying we also not happy with the fact that we only had 2 out of the 6 training sessions. However, the training sessions are based more on clients. We approach clients whereby we identify deficiencies, but also we get clients who also approach us in return. And therefore, we set such targets based on that. But unfortunately, we had clients that pulled out of the scheduled training sessions in the period under review. While some they were taken after the end of the financial year, but some the clients have not really come back, and we will improve in terms of having proper MOUs with the clients so that when we have targeted, there are no disruptions in terms of the trainings that have been scheduled to take place. And in terms of the WhatsApp channel, okay, let me start with the social media platforms. Chairperson, we fully understand the fact that there is a room for us to improve in terms of our social media presence and communication. Safe to say, we do have, and as GCIS, we manage the government-wide social media platforms and the GCIS-specific social media platforms. We also have the provincial-specific social media platforms and that we run, that then we use them for specific provincial-related information, even though we amplify the messaging or the communication that touches in terms of the overall national footprint. But those provincial ones are also making the point that we have specific communication that is relevant to the particular province and the districts. The WhatsApp channel, I think it was a question also that was raised in the previous term of hands. The WhatsApp channel is not between government and government. It's a WhatsApp channel that we utilize to communicate with the public at large. And currently we have 1.5 million followers on that WhatsApp channel. And the work that we do with the regional broadcasters at a provincial level, The limitations are more in terms of the budget, because the broadcasters, they require us to buy airtime so that we are able to communicate. Whilst we are able to, from the savings, to get some free 1 minute interview there and 2 minutes interview there, but it doesn't get to be at levels whereby we are satisfied, because we need to buy the airtime so that we are able to communicate through the regional. In fact, in all media houses, we have to buy airtime, and therefore our limitations are the availability of budget that we have as an institution. And in terms of the delivery of our publications and making the point that is really delivered, the systems that we have in place are threefold. The first one is that the company itself that is supposed to be distributing, they have their own data that they submit to us, which we then, when they have submitted, we do some audits in terms of the actual delivery. And that's only when we process the payments, when we are satisfied that the deliveries are based in terms of the audits that they have provided and the agreement thereof. We also have an independent body that also audits the delivery of the publications, and that takes place twice a year, just to make sure that we improve our controls. And I would say that the other deficiency is the fact that we have limited human resources to make it a point that whenever the delivery is taking place, there are people available who makes it a point that they reach each and every household. But we do have controls sufficient to the available resources to make sure that the publications, they reach the targeted people. And then in terms of the Tusong services centers, there are three. Currently, there's an ongoing engagements between COGTA, DPSA, and GCIS in terms of ensuring the relevant roles and responsibilities in managing the Tusong services centers. And therefore, I wouldn't pronounce much currently, but it's safe to say that DPSA is indicating that they are responsible for establishing norms and standards, and therefore COGTA will then be able to assist in terms of ensuring that either the Premier's offices or the municipalities themselves are responsible to ensure the functionality of the Tusong services centers. And then as the GCIS, we then come in terms of marketing and promoting the Tusong services centers. And they didn't come through in the presentation, Chairperson, because the targets that were set, they were achieved. And we continuously even further engage in levels whereby it's not really our responsibility. For an example, we promote service excellence in terms of the best managed centers on an annual basis, which in a nutshell, I would say is not our core mandate, but just to make sure that we encourage the use and the best management of the Tusong services centers. And then in terms of the outcomes of the Izimbizos having to be properly communicated, Chairperson is one area that we will work on, but currently the system that exists is that when the people are raising their questions, we normally have colleagues that have been coordinated to take all those questions, and then they are processed through the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation system, which is your presidential call center. And then they are infused in terms of the DDMs, how they're going to be implemented, and the physical, should I say, realization of the issues that have been raised. I do believe that, Chairperson, we can add value still based on the inputs from this committee, and making it a point that when all has been done and there's progress, we make it a point that we communicate as GCIS and nationally in terms of how far government has progressed in terms of implementation of the issues that have been raised. And in terms of the active citizenry and ensuring how we make sure that the citizens are actually empowered. Whilst we have limited resources in terms of the other platforms, we still continue at a district and provincial level to have the face-to-face engagement with the public, to make it a point that they are empowered in a number of areas that are not even covered in terms of the national campaigns that we drive, but are merely informed by a number of things that are taking place. For an example, we do undertake research that tells us the public perception opinions, and then we are able then to zoom in certain areas, but we are also coordinating municipalities and departments to be able to engage also with the public in general. And sometimes we are not even in the forefront in terms of those engagements, but we do the facilitation role of making the point that the departments, they are aware of what needs to be dealt with or to be communicated directly with the public. And we organize those engagements and we make it a point that there's sufficient content to be shared with the public in general. And in terms of the ring-fence budget for SABC, I will allow the CFO just to talk to that area, and whether we utilize SA post services as well in terms of our courier services. I will request our CFO to assist us. And I think some of the issues, the Deputy Minister spoke to them, so I'm not going to be talking to what he has already spoken to. Safe to say, Chairperson, if there's any other question that I've left out, I would plead with my colleagues to also assist me. And in the previous round of hands, we wanted also, Chairperson, to add a little bit in terms of the efforts for the gender-based violence and femicide communication. And therefore, I will also request my colleague Sandile Nene to also talk to that. Chairperson, with your approval, I will allow the CFO to come in and then followed by Sandile.
Thank you, Acting DG.
Thank you, Chairperson and members. I would like to add in terms of the BBBE, the issue was regarding the system, but now the system is assisting us, and we also achieved around 30% spending on the designated groups. And then with regards to the courier services, in the past financial year, we used to use a service provider for the distribution of the Vukuzenzele, but with regards to the other items, the courier services are limited. So I have asked my team to just draw a report in terms of showing how much was spent on the courier services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairperson, thank you so much, and thank you to ADG. With regards to the...
Please, Mr. Nene.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I hope I can be seen. But I think, Chairperson, the question was asked about the GBVF. So one of the things that GCIS is actually pursuing with the private sector via the Marketing, Advertising and Communications Channel, Charter Council, is the issue of providing for what we call responsible marketing. And then to this end, we are working with the Marketing Association of South Africa, which is also a member of the Sector Council. So it's a constituency of all the advertisers, whether it could be McDonald's, to all of them. And now they are duty bound to ensure that whatever we put out, without obviously, because there's a bit of a balancing act, without impeding or pushing creativity out, but what we put out must ensure that we don't in any way deal with the events that we were visited with, namely the H&M and some of the clicks issues. So I think colleagues would now agree that if you go to a retail outlet like Spar, for instance, once you have purchased your groceries, in that packet, it now reads Stop Gender-Based Violence. It's one of the efforts by GCIS, obviously coordinated by GCIS via the MEC and the private sector. So those are the things that we're doing. Some of them would also include, as we are rolling out the program, the issue around gender stereotyping as well as the need to ensure that we do not, at any level, Chair, objectify women in our advertisement. So that's what we are doing. Chair, the other point that we also needed to raise, and apologies for this, was the issue around our spot checks that we do, and also our digital analytics tools that enables us to check the people who are interacting with our content, whether it will be someone who has visited our website and all of that. We also have a Braille version of the Vuk'uzenzele, including the My District, which are the publications that really speaks to the different parts of our provinces, the different elements of content, communication content, which are relevant to the different district and local municipalities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the GCIS for those responses. And we thank you for appearing with us. CFO, you wanted to come back? Please do.
Yes, Chairperson, I think I forgot to highlight on the ring fencing on the funds. Currently, the Preferential Procurement Regulations 2022, they don't make provision for the ring fencing, but however, we're in the process of developing a media buying policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Matheus, your hand is up.
It definitely is, Chair, and it's just a housekeeping matter. I'm not going to keep you here on this cold Friday. We have a deputy minister who sits in the highest office of the land, the office of the presidency. And he comes here, Chair, sitting in his car. He was duly notified about this meeting. And if I'm not mistaken, this is not the first time. I think just recently in plenary, we couldn't hear him because he was on a virtual, and I stand to be corrected, but I'm pretty sure that it was him. But even if it was, I withdraw. But my point is that we are all duly notified of these meetings. We need to ensure that we are in a place where there's good lighting, where there's good sound, and there's good connection. And this is why I object with you as often as I do about using these virtual platforms, because we don't get to engage as we should, or and as thoroughly as we should. But when we do it, it's not a hard thing to do, Chair. What are you doing in your car when you're supposed to be doing work? So please, Chair, you must just call him out, and I hope you do better, Deputy Minister, and take yourself serious as the Deputy Minister sitting in the highest office of the land. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Matheus. Do you really want to respond, Deputy Minister? I think it's just a point for noting, but I will afford you the opportunity. Please do come in.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't want an impression to be created that I do not hold Parliament in high regard. I am traveling to a government event, Chairperson. And I had thought that by now this meeting would have concluded. Unfortunately, I do not have a choice. I will have to move from the point where I am to a point where I must go and do my work as a deputy minister, as suggested by Honorable Matheus. But also let me say there's nothing untoward for me to have responded in a digital, on an online or on a virtual platform in the second last parliamentary sitting that I was part of. It is not unparliamentary, and therefore I don't know why it is raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. You know what? Let me not brush over the issue. Honorable Matheus is right. This meeting was scheduled for 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. And there is an expectation that whether it is physical or virtual, members would be giving the due attention required in order for us to substantively and meaningfully engage in issues. So, DM, we have noted that you do have other work, but importantly also is the work of Parliament. So we trust that in the next meeting, you will be able to give us your full attention when we have scheduled meetings. But we note that you are in transit to other duties. Honorable members, let us close off then on the GCIS and the MDDA. And to summarize in the following manner, that from the engagements that we've had, we would want the GCIS to please engage Parliament as soon as is possible on the issue of their strategic plan as well as their APP. Our particular interest is in the quality of the indicators and the targets that you're going to put there. So going into moving into the future, we really don't want to have to quibble over 20 posts as a target, which speak to us, say nothing to us about what is the impact of that, what is the strategic nature of that, why 20? So if we could have an engagement on that. Similarly, I think you have seen that members are very keen to find out what you are doing around issues of consequence management. Yes, there may be a corrective action, but while there's a corrective action, what did you do when the target was, you failed to meet it? In most instances, the corrective action is moving it into the next quarter, and we would like you to be more specific about what action you have taken to ensure that whatever the issue is does not recur. We've spoken on the issue of the audit plans that the CEO also spoke to. We are interested in the numbers around the media buying issue, especially as it relates to spend on the SABC vis-a-vis the commercial broadcasters. There's been quite a bit of reference that's been made to the GCIS legislative framework as well as the draft white paper. If we could have an update on those issues. DM, also an update on the MDDA governance that you spoke to us about. Requests have been made by members for the copy of the digital transformation strategy of the GCIS, and I want to add a social media strategy for the GCIS if there is one. And then there was a question that was not answered, which I could have missed it. I could have missed it because I probably didn't give the MDDA an opportunity to respond around the support to community radio, especially in terms of ICASA licenses and the impact. Prof. Matebula, I'll give you 1 second just when I finish for you to speak to that. And then the support to provinces and municipalities, how this intergovernmental framework is working. There's also a request from members for the statistics, the names, and the amounts that you are spending on print and broadcast services. Who are those companies? MDDA. And finally, then I think if you can give us a report on what you're going to be doing to ensure that you are able to report to communities and track delivery against the issues that our people raise with you. When they raise issues, let's make sure that we go back to them. Prof. Matebula, I think you had 2 questions from Honorable Shongwe. Do you want to come in quickly on those, and then we can move from the GCIS and MDDA? Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. I think there was as well comments from Honorable Subrayati, which we take note of in respect of geographical representation. In terms of whites, colored Indians in our staff, and I should say that it is a work in progress, and it is something that we assist with and are concerned that we have not been able to attract as best as we could people from different demographics, not geographic, demographic representation. Honorable Shongwe, I think there's an issue around mandates, and MDDA does the best it can to engage with ICASA and Centec, because one of the things that we have not elaborated on here is the fact that the MDDA could do the best it can if the stations are unable to pay their transmission fees, they do get closed. And then it comes back to MDDA and only to find that MDDA can really do nothing about that. The same applies to the issues around ICASA with licenses. It is really a mandate of ICASA. We can engage with them, but it really remains their prerogative to either grant a license or revoke the license if the conditions have not been met. Chairperson, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. We truly, truly appreciate that. Let me thank you then for your time and having appeared before the committee. We look forward to further engagements with yourself, and I'm sure we will also at some point be graced with the minister's presence in the portfolio committee. But please do keep safe out there, and it's very cold. So thank you very much to the GCIS and MDDA. Colleagues, can we move to the next? Oh, sorry, before you go, there is a request from members that they be added onto the WhatsApp channel. If through the Secretariat, you could please send an invitation for us to be able to join that WhatsApp channel. Thank you very much. Colleagues, the next item on the agenda, if we could just have the notice up, it relates to the salary determination. Salaries, benefits, allowances for members of the ICASA Council. We have received an apology from the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. I believe he's abroad attending UNGA, but Deputy Minister Gungubele is here. Secretariat, just the notice so we can formally put it on record. So the item is the deliberation and consideration. We should not assume adoption, deliberation and consideration of the report. It's gone. We're dealing with the salaries and benefits and allowances of the ICASA Council members. DM, can I request that you lead from the department, and thereafter the Secretariat will come in with their draft report. Over to you, DM Gungubele.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I am with the State Entity Oversight, who are going to do the presentation, which is very, very short. As you have already said, the Minister has attended UNGA. This, as I'm advised, is about the consideration of the increases for ICASA, which is in the category of independent institutions. As a department, we generally are in support, but of course, expecting the Parliament, or in this instance, represented by the Portfolio Committee, to actually deliberate and make a view on it. But I would ask some Zulu or pressures from the state-owned enterprise to actually make a short presentation if you so indulge, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, members, Deputy Ministers, and colleagues. I will ask my colleague Zaytoon to share the presentation because my laptop is giving me some challenges this side. Zaytoon? Okay, today we are presenting the proposed remuneration adjustments for the ICASA councillors, which are scheduled to take effect from the 1st of April 2023 and 1st April 2024. To provide some context, in July 2020, the former acting DG, Ms. Bachi, came to this portfolio committee meeting and presented about the serious economic challenges and fiscal constraints faced by ICASA. At that time, the committee agreed on a 0% increase in remuneration for the ICASA chairperson and other councillors earning above 1.5 million per annum, given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we are now in a period of economic recovery. The issue of ICASA councillors' remuneration has been revisited in line with the legislative framework, and this presentation will outline the rationale for the proposed increases supported by the department. The next. Yes, the second part here is regarding the process for the determination of the remuneration, allowances and benefits, the legislative framework. According to the ICASA Act 13 of 2000 as amended, the salaries, allowances and benefits of the chairperson and ICASA councillors are determined by the president. This determination follows recommendation made by the Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, and these recommendations are made in consultation with the Minister of Finance. The final approval of the adjustment lies with the National Assembly. This is in terms of Section 10, subsection 1, and Section 10 and subsection 3 of the ICASA Act. This process ensures that the salary adjustments for ICASA councillors are transparent and adhere to proper governance protocols, aligning with national standards for public office bearers. The next slide. And the process for determination of remuneration. Once the independent commission makes its recommendation, the proposal is submitted to the president for approval following consultations with the Minister of Finance. These recommendations are forwarded to the National Assembly, which may either approve or disapprove them in whole or in part. This is in line with Section 10, subsection 5 of the ICASA Act. This rigorous process ensures that all relevant authorities are involved in reviewing and approving the salary adjustments, maintaining accountability and transparency. We can move to the next slide. So this slide is talking about the rates that has been determined with effect from 1 April 2023 and 1 April 2024. So this is a schedule that is in the Government Gazette that was published on the 16th of May 2024. ICASA, it falls under that Schedule 8 of independent constitutional institutions. As you can see, the proposed adjustments for 1 April 2023 is 3%, and the proposed schedule for 1 April 2024 is 2.5%. So these modest increases are designed to balance the market competitiveness with fiscal responsibility. We are aware that this might have not been exactly in line with the market, but because of during the determination, they also look at the fiscal constraint issues, and they also look at affordability of this adjustment. You can move to the next slide. So as the department, we are saying we acknowledge and support the proposed remuneration increases because they are in line with the Section 10 of the ICASA Act, and there are recommendations also by the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, which they've submitted that report to the National Assembly. And we believe that there's been also the consultation with the Minister of Finance and subsequent approval by the Minister, by the President, and therefore the National Assembly. The next slide. The rationale for the next slide. The rationale for the proposed increases. Colleague, can you move? Okay. We are saying the rationale for the support of this by the department, we are throwing it into these three areas. We say they have tried to ensure that there's market alignment. The proposed remuneration increases ensure that ICASA salary structure remains competitive within the industry standard, which is critical for attracting and retaining highly skilled professionals in a highly specialized sector. Secondly, the economy recovery, as we have indicated that previously, the presentation that was done to Parliament was to say, let's freeze the salary increment. But as we say that as we gradually recover from the impact of COVID-19, the department supports the revisiting of the frozen salary increment as the economic situation allows for this modest adjustment. We are saying modest because they are sufficient to accommodate the cost of the cost of living adjustment. And lastly, the commission have looked also at issues of job complexity of job responsibility and job roles and responsibilities of ICASA councillors. And we have noted that these have become increasingly complex, particularly as they oversee critical regulatory frameworks in a fast evolving, digitally driven adjustment, reflect the demands of their roles and ensure that they are compensated accordingly. To summarize the department's position, we fully concur with the proposed remuneration increases. These adjustments strike a balance between ensuring that ICASA remains competitive, that it retains skills, professionals, and reflecting the growing complexity of their work, and while remaining mindful of the country's fiscal constraints. In addition, these proposed increases align with the guiding principles of affordability, equity with other independent constitutional institutions, and the need to recognize the expertise and experience required for ICASA councillors' roles. We believe that the proposed remuneration adjustment for ICASA councillors are both necessary and justified. They align with the legislative framework. They support the market competitiveness, although they are still below what the market is, and reflect the complexity of the regulatory framework, regulatory work overseen by ICASA. The department is confident that these adjustments are in the best interest of ICASA and will contribute to its continued success. We look forward to the committee's approval of these much needed adjustments. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. All you are saying, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, we are explaining why do we align with the outcome of the process, which is executed in line with the legislative clauses that have been referred to, and from the point of economic view and the significance and the vitality of the work the councillors are doing. Thank you, Chair. We refer back to you and they will be guided by yourselves. Thanks.
Thank you very much, DM. Thank you, Sis Precious, for that presentation. Honorable members, there is the recommendation on the table, a salary increment, inflationary based for ICASA councillors, 2.5%, I think in the current financial year, 3% in the previous financial year. I see two hands, Honorable Bodlani, then followed by Honorable Mkhaga. Honorable Bodlani.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, DM, colleagues on the call. Chair, while there's a great appreciation that this is not necessarily an item that is brought by ICASA, it is something that is a recommendation of the of a committee on the remuneration of ICASA councillors. For me, the first question would be the timing, and for us not to be seen to be tone deaf. It is my understanding that the last we engaged ICASA, there was an issue of a strike that was looming. It is also my understanding that ICASA is getting itself ready for the next round of the spectrum sale. So mine would be, how do we find a balance so that at this portfolio committee, we don't also want to be going against the recommendations of the remuneration committee, but we know there are also workers out there who do the hard labor, who are also crying for an increase. And I'm not sure also, Chairperson, on the issue of the performance contract, can we just get confirmation that all the councillors that are currently on the ICASA Council have signed their performance contract? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Botlani. Honorable Mkhaga.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Molweni Maqabane. No, Chair, I think my questions are closely related to what Honorable Botlani is related, because I was going to ask Chair as to whether this package or this increment of 3%, 2.5% is inclusive of performance bonuses. Is it inclusive of performance bonuses? If not, what do they envisage as to be the performance bonuses over and above this increase? Two, what is...
Thank you, Honorable Mkhaga, if it was one question, but if you have another question, please put your video on.
Oh, okay.
Nazu. Thank you, sir.
No, Chair. I'm around. I was listening. No, Chair, the second question is in relation to the increment for ordinary workers. They reach agreements or paid, and how much was it paid for increment for workers, starting with the management down to the ordinary workers? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mkhaga. Honorable Vilakazi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Can you see me, Chair? Is my video on?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can. Thank you, Honorable.
Similarly to the two colleagues who've spoken, I would just caution against an emphasis, even overemphasis, on modest adjustment. If you're looking at the scale of the money, on the one hand, you tell us these are salaries upward of R1 million a year, and then you emphasize that 2%, 3% is modest. If you tell that to, I know, for example, in the government sector, I don't know in the current ICASA discussions, but in government, they're asking for a 15% increment. That's what the workers are asking, or something similar. But for many of them, in rent terms, it comes nowhere near the so-called modest adjustments that we're talking about here. So I think we just need to be conscious of the environment within which we operate and demonstrate this modesty actually by not over downplaying the significance of the amounts. They are significant, especially in a fiscally constrained environment as we are in at present. And then in line with that, my question that I would just have a response to, if possible, is there tends to be two issues with boards and remuneration. One is non-attendance, and which never gets managed, which doesn't get controlled, but people still sometimes get paid or stay on boards, even if they're not getting paid for meetings they haven't attended, but they're not making the contribution, adding the value that they have been tasked with adding. And then the other one is over attendance, where boards call on meetings that are not even necessary, things that don't need a meeting, end up having a meeting, and therefore there are payments for meeting attendance. How is that managed within ICASA in light of this remuneration request? And then also the presenter makes the point about these being skilled individuals in a highly complex environment. Agreed. But these performance agreements that Honorable Bodlani referred to, are they managed? How is performance of the board managed? And is it possible for ICASA or this commission to share with us instances where the board performance appraisal, can they share those with us so that we can see how often they get done and how performance is managed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mattes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to do this video. I think you can see me. Adjustments should be aligned, or salary adjustments. I mean, obviously the board, the councillors, the chair, for example, are being remunerated way, way, way above any living wage. So that should be aligned with performance. ICASA is not performing, and we don't even know the last time that it had met all its targets that it has been set. So this comes back to what we've been raising, is the issue of consequence management. So I would have thought that the department would, in their presentation, outside of speaking to issues of, what the national standards are in terms of remuneration, if we want to meet the national standards of, or international standards rather, of remuneration, are we also delivering? Because that's the question. So we must speak to alignment on the performance of ICASA if we are going to talk about remuneration of them. I get the issue of job complexities and trying to retain highly skilled people, but we have an issue here at ICASA where even the roles that are just basic that are not even being met. So I'm not understanding why the department is coming and coming to make a recommendation that we align and increase the remuneration in line with market value when we don't have performance coming from there. And perhaps also one of the other things in making such presentations is to say that, okay, if these targets are not met, the board member, or rather the councillor as we refer to them, will resign or maybe not resign, or whatever the consequences are going to be if that's not done. But for us to be entertaining remuneration increases in light of the dismal performance of ICASA, I'm not convinced that this is something that we should be supporting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mattes. Honorable Subrathi, I do know that you have got an apology to leave at 12. So I wanted to check if there was any input or any view you had on this matter before we lose you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, thank you, Chair. I think the concerns raised by honourable members before me, Honourable Vilakazi, and the last member, are pretty much aligned with my concerns. And whilst the increase or the proposed increase before us is packaged as an inflationary increase, and we know inflation for 2023 was 6%, it would appear that this is a very a noble adjustment in terms of providing a less than inflationary increase. The reality of it is we cannot ignore the fact that ICASA is in the news and not for the right reasons, and you cannot not link it to performance. And against the fact that we find that workers are going to be starting conversations around that. How do we support an increase where the performance hasn't been much to shout about? So that is where I'm grappling with, Chair. I've had the opportunity of going to Parliament to the House 2 days ago and motivate for a similar 2.5–3% increase for the Auditor General. And I led the discussion on behalf of my party, and I had no problem supporting it because we all know what phenomenal work the Auditor General does. And so how do I how are we able to argue the same in the case of ICASA board? So Chair, that is my reservation, and I think it's in line with the honourable members' concerns that they have raised. How do we link the adjustment? And Comrade Honourable Vilakazi has reminded us, let's not downplay the fact that a small percentage in relation to the amounts involved is a substantial amount as well. So let's be mindful of that. So those are my concerns. I echo the sentiments of the other honourable members that the performance of ICASA is taking center stage, and I cannot seem to reconcile the two, Honourable Chair. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Those are my reflections on it.
Thank you very much, honourable members, for those comments. Maybe just to add, Deputy Minister, colleagues, I think we understand that firstly, these recommendations come from, I think they're called the Commission for Remuneration of what, through the presidency, and therefore you would not have been responsible for the process. But I do want to engage you on where you would have been involved in the process, which I think is consultation with the minister in this regard. What was the input, I think, of the department on these salary adjustments? Now, you also, I mean, members are hearing you saying that it's an inflationary increase, but almost all of the comments speak to the issue of performance. Can you just very succinctly tell us how far that process of performance management is? There's a PMS that had been committed to, which would serve as the foundation for the performance agreements between members, the councillors of ICASA and the department. So how far is that process? I'm asking this because I've not brought it to the committee yet, because we thought that we would write to you formally, but we're also being asked to concur with the establishment of an evaluation panel for performance monitoring of ICASA councillors, but we also don't have a performance management system. So just to understand what that panel is for then, given the fact that there seems to be no performance management system between the department and ICASA. Honourable Deputy Minister, over to you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Can I ask Precious to deal first with the technical questions?
Okay, thank you, GM. I'll talk to the question of Honourable Bodlani, the second one on the performance contracts. The performance contracts, ICASA, they've submitted the draft performance contracts, which we are still going to have a meeting with them. Today, I was talking to the COSEC to request that we schedule a meeting as soon as possible so that those performance contracts can be finalized and decided by the minister. So the first question, Honourable Bodlani, will come back to you on the issue of the timing and the balance between the hard labor and the remuneration and the issue of the next round of spectrum. So we'll come back to you as the department on that one. The question of Honourable Mrara increments, whether it's inclusive of the performance bonus. This is not inclusive of the performance bonus. The performance bonus will only be considered after they went through the performance evaluation. There's a performance management system that was approved by the National Assembly. I'm not sure now of the timing because I'm not opening the document, and it was done by my colleagues who were responsible at that time. This function has just been recently been moved to me. But this performance management system, the way consultation and the National Assembly approved the performance management system. In that performance management system, it provides for that performance evaluation. So after the performance evaluation, that's when will know the issues of performance bonus, whether they need to be paid performance bonus or not. And the second question, increment of ordinary workers. This one also will come back to you because we have to check with ICASA on this matter. The question of Honorable Vilakazi, modest adjustment. The reason I was saying this, if you look at page 178 of the report by the commission, they were proposing something like 2.4 million for the chairperson, because they were saying the current salary of the chairperson is even below the market median by 11%. So hence I was saying the increases, if you look at them, they are even below what was in that report that was recommended. And the second one on the non-attendance board meetings and over attendance, how is it managed? ICASA councillors are appointed on a full-time basis. They are not like the other boards where you'll say you'll have 4 meetings and so on. These councillors are appointed on full-time basis. So that salary that they get, it accommodates even for meetings, whether they have lesser meetings or have more meetings, because they are appointed on a full-time basis. So here we don't have, I can say, a challenge in terms of to say how many board meetings they're supposed to attend, because here they are full-time and they are heading committees which are more of working committees as compared to our ordinary boards. And the issue of the second issue on the performance management and the appraisal, it has not been done because the performance management system was recently approved, and we are in the phase of implementing it. The first phase was to have those performance contracts signed, and the second phase is that one of the evaluation panel, which the department has already submitted to Parliament to ensure that it's appointed. And the question of Honorable Matthews, aligned with performance consequence management, this one will come back to you, Honorable Matthews, as the department. And yes, and all the questions that you mentioned there, including the basic rules not being met. So we'll come back to you on that one. Honorable Suprati, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your surname incorrectly. The inflationary increase, novel adjustment, I believe I have already touched on that one, because the councillors are full-time, they are like full-time employees during their contracting time or during the time that they are serving as councillors. In terms of the legislation, they are not supposed to be committed in any other. Yes.
Yes, Honorable Stole.
Please, can I ask the presenter to speak louder? We don't hear what.
Thank you.
Apologies for that. I'm saying the issue of inflationary increase, the noble adjustment. I'm saying here the proposal was because the councillors are full-time councillors, like the full-time employees that are appointed in the ICASA. In terms of the legislation, they are not supposed to take up any other additional work while they are serving as councillors. So hence, as a department, we thought this inflationary increase, even though it's less than the inflationary increase, we thought it will assist to deal with the issues of cost of living. And the issue of in the news, there are news that are not right regarding the performance of the ICASA. I think that issue as well will come back to it as the department. And lastly, Chair asked about how far are we with the performance management system. The performance management system, as I indicated, was approved, and we are in the process of ensuring that we implement everything that needs to be implemented in terms of the system, performance agreements, appointment of the evaluation panel, which will do that evaluation of the ICASA councillors and submit the report to Parliament as required by the performance management system. So if the committee wants a detailed presentation on this performance management system, we will avail ourselves and come and do a presentation on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. Honorable Chair, I think Precious has tried to deal with a number of technical issues. I thought one wanted to make the point that I'm just happy that she stated the nature of their employment as compared to any other board and the essence of their service in as far as the communication network is concerned. That the monitoring of license performances and all those other issues are issues that are a service that the state cannot afford to do without. But one must appreciate the fact that we should not find a conflict between that and the need for committee to be appraised in as far as the performance system is concerned. This has not been there for some time. We actually secured an agreement with them last year that this system should come to place, and then Precious has just given a progress in that regard. Remember, their increases have been frozen previously, and we restate, Chair, the fact that if you look at the nature of the skills they have to possess and the sensitivity of the job they do, it is important to retain those skills. We are also making the point that in as far as inflation it pertains at the moment, we see it less than that, but we must accept that as department, we must come and make sure that in as far as the performance appraisal system is concerned, what to call the committee is appraised. It would be worrisome, with all humility, if something different would happen. I would say we strongly appeal to the committee to view the nature of their work, the importance of retaining their skills, and also accepting that they need to be accountable in as far as the appraisal system is concerned, as articulated. We've already stated that why we think we are aligned with the independent commission's recommendation. And one cannot make a mistake of not taking into account how serious issues the portfolio committee is raising with regard to should be appraised with the performance system and the results of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Thanks, Sis Precious. That is the briefing, the ask honorable members from the committee. I see, sorry, from the department. I see you want to follow up, Member Honorable Mkhaga, Honorable Bodlani. Let me take those follow-ups. Honorable Mkhaga, you may go first.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, acknowledging the challenges that are confronting ICASA, which are very serious because they relate to the question of non-performance But also I'm persuaded, Chair, and I want us to be sensitive on this matter of freezing salaries, freezing the increment, the frozen process that they have agreed on in the past. I think that persuades me because it means they could not enjoy this benefit for quite some time, for whatever reason. Secondly, the issue of the appraisal instrument is a very critical matter, but it's the fault of the employer to delay that particular process. The employer is supposed to have initiated that particular process. Of course, I hear now that the process is at a draft level and they are ready to come and present it to us. On the basis of those two factors, Chair, I would persuade the committee to agree on the 3%, but also agree that they don't qualify for performance bonuses, even if evaluation could be done. But for now, they don't qualify for that. We separate the two for performance bonuses, but agree that let them also benefit to correct the mistake that has been done in the past of freezing their own increment. And because I don't have reasons as to why those increments were frozen. Chair, I'm saying I'm persuaded, and if members could then be share the same sentiments, I would have a problem, Chairperson. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkhaga. Honorable Bojani.
Chair, thank you so much. Ms. Precious has promised to come back to the Portfolio Committee on a number of things that we have raised issue on. If you could just please guide us on how we are going to handle that. And also note that as the DA, we reserve our rights on this item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bojani. Honorable members, having listened, I think, to the issues, the concerns that you've raised, and also the responses of the department, I want to make a proposal for your consideration. I think starting exactly where you left off, Honorable Bojani, on the many commitments that is Precious. I'm sorry, Precious, I don't have your surname. I just don't have your surname to refer to you correctly. Having noted that there's a number of issues that the department needs to come back to us on, then there's the issue of the performance agreements that are still outstanding. Basically, what we're saying is that we are paying people just for being in the jobs because we don't have a sense of performance because there's no evaluation that has been done. So can I propose, honorable members, that when we come back from a constituency period in our very first meeting, we bring this item back and take today as a briefing. In that meeting, we request that the Secretariat before that would have sent us the PMS that was adopted by the 6th administration. In that meeting, I believe it is sufficient time. DM Kungubele will indicate if it's not. The performance agreements of all the councillors must have then been signed because as Precious says that they've received them. Now, if that PMS was signed in the 6th administration, it's what, almost, I don't know how many months then when they had an opportunity to finalize their individual performance agreement. So could we just be furnished with a report that has been done at the next meeting as well? At that meeting, then we will then consider a report and finalize our deliberations on this matter. So we are persuaded, like you are, Honorable Mkhaga, but I think that let's just make sure that, we have also crossed all our T's and dotted our I's, because at the end of the day, it is us that have to go to plenary and present and defend this recommendation of the salary increases. Honorable Bojani, I see a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Can I check if there's any disagreement or perhaps another approach that members would want to propose? Honorable Mkhaga.
No, Chair, just to check the timelines, are we not supposed to be meeting time? I've heard yesterday in Parliament that different portfolio committees were presenting their recommendation to Parliament. And I thought maybe within a short space of time, this matter has to be dealt with. If there are no timelines, Chair, I align myself with your recommendation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkhacha. Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, no, I think the member that was speaking has covered me, because I was trying to check the timeline of that increment, because I remember this week we have agreed in Parliament for the increment of judges and some committees. So I'm trying to check at our side the time frame. Do we have a time frame, or it will be okay? Because if it is okay, I'm agree with your proposal. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. I did check with the Secretariat. You remember that these recommendations are the 2023, 2024, and I think 2022, 2023. We do have to process them, but we have not been given any timelines. But also the first sitting of the House will only be in the second week of October. So if we're able to deal with it in our first meeting when we come back from constituency period, then we are still on time. So it will not adversely affect. We haven't been, is it called ATC for this yet? But we will deal with it in our very first meeting when we come back, which is, at the beginning of the term. Honorable Vilakazi. By the way, my proposal doesn't mean that if members are keen to adopt a report now, we can't do so. But I thought that maybe what we would want to do is to ensure that all of these concerns that we're raising, we've put a process in place so that as we approve those that recommendation, we know that we've also put in systems that we are not back here again. Honorable Vilakazi.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that the first week of Parliament is the oversight visit, unless you are referring to the week after that. But the very first week that the constituency period ends will be the oversight visit, which we are scheduled to go on, and so we won't be in Parliament. And Chair, on that note of the oversight visit, I would just request the parliamentary staff to please assist us with a fuller itinerary. We've got the itinerary of places, but what can we expect to see there? What's the objective of the oversight and all those details? Yeah. Otherwise, I'm in support of your proposed way forward, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I'm still going to make, after this meeting, an urgent consultation, because my worry, Chair, I'm not sure how October, maybe that is out of order, because October there's this medium-term policy statement and all other things. I'm worried of a situation where we can double jump this item. But if what the Chair is guiding on and the timing align so that the questions that you need clarity on are clarified, one is okay, but I would say I'll also maybe ascertain the technicality around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DM. Okay, so maybe let's allow you to do that, DM, and come back to us. Honorable members, there was a draft report that had been prepared on this matter for your consideration. You'll remember when we started, I think the agenda read deliberation and adoption of the report. So I did not want us to make assumptions of adoption. You do have the report in the event that for one reason or the other, like the DM is saying, this matter we will not be able to deal with, you have the report. And we can just, as a formality then at our next meeting, just adopt that report without having to go into a lot of issues. So a lot of the work has already been done. I think what we would need to do is to add some of the concerns that you have raised, which is also another way of short-circuiting the process, that while we are approving the recommendations, these are the concerns that we have. My biggest problem is that we have been asking and asking about this performance management system. So we need to ensure that it is done within reasonable timelines. But Deputy Minister, let's wait then for your revert back to us. We will advise members accordingly. But in the meantime, let's take the recommendation that we'll deal with it in the first meeting after the constituency period and after the oversight, as you indicate, Honorable Vilakazi. But we will not be late. From a committee point of view, the National Assembly did not give us any timeline. We know that the committees are busy with this process now, but we will not be late and we will not be left out. Okay, if there's no other issues then on this matter, can I just check with the Secretariat on the program without going into the program of the oversight visit, because this is our last meeting before that. Do you have any updates to give, any information, I think, on what Honorable Vilakazi was asking?
We have an updated program, Chairperson, it's Hajira. We have sent the oversight application to the House Chair. It's now with the Chief Whip's office. We await approval. We have a tentative program that we can send to members, and we can do that after this meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I think you must take into account what Honorable Vilakazi says. So don't just say we're going to Ndafufu High School, but what is the purpose of the visit and so forth, so we know what are we looking for, what has been committed and so forth. If you could share that as soon as possible, please. Honorable Mr. Ngoma, Mr. Ngoma, do you want to come in? I saw your camera on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you just explained what Mr. Vilakazi was requesting. We take note and will ensure that such that information forms part, even if it's not really on the program, but we work to have an explanatory document for each and every project, as Mr. Vilakazi had suggested. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, with all that being said and done, honorable members, I want to thank you. We have come to the end of yet another term. We have survived. I think there's one more to go, and then we have a blissful holiday, hopefully in December. Let me thank you so much. I think, you know, just for your participation in the committee, for the cooperation and the guidance that you are giving to the departments and our entities. We will meet on the 7th of October for the what you may call it, for the oversight. And I truly look forward to a very interesting oversight visit if the program is anything to judge by. I thank also Deputy Minister Gungubele, I think the Minister of DCDT, the Minister of GCIS, and the Deputy Minister, together with the leadership of those entities. I think at the end of this term, it has really been, you know, a lot of hard pulling, but you have consistently been here. You have answered our questions, and you continue to make our work easier as we seek to support you as much as we give oversight to the work that you're doing. So without any further ado, colleagues, may I declare the meeting closed and wish you a pleasant day further. Kulungile, bye. Kulungile, bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Kunzima nokupheka kulena ntoka.
Kwintoni tani ntathu?
Kule committee kunzima nokupheka kule committee le. Ufika endlini ufuna ukupheka kuthiwa nantsi uyafuna eTV-ni hayi. Entities.
Thanks. Bye.
Much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.